All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We're live. Hello, everyone. Okay. Please put your name and where you are joining from, as well as your business and product in the chat. We are going to wait a minute or so for more folks to join. But in the meantime, please add your name, where you're from, and your business in the chat. And welcome. We're so thrilled to be here with Sam, and we'll get started here in a few seconds. All right, welcome everybody. For those who just joined, please put your name and where you're from in the chat, as well as your product and or business. All right, let's get started. Hello, my name is Erica Thompson, and I am the Senior Director of Creative Product here at Suna. Welcome to our holiday content webinar series. As a reminder, we are going to be live every Wednesday from now until October, where we'll be sharing tips and tricks from e-commerce experts and brand marketers. Now today, I am joined by Sam Tomlinson. Hey, Sam. Sam is an extremely talented digital strategist and knows all the ways to drive results with Google Ads. Hey, Sam, what's up? How are you?
I'm good, Erica. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, well, before we get started, I'd really just love to know, how did you find yourself in the Google Ads universe?
It's kind of a weird story, but I worked in finance for the first 5-6 years of my career, mostly real estate. So I was on the other side of the table for most of our Google Ads people who were doing leasing and trying to get leads into the properties that we were building. And eventually I decided I didn't want to work in finance anymore because that was soul sucking and crushing. And two, that I can probably figure this out. So I took about a year and just taught myself everything I could possibly know, had some great help and mentors along the way, and then made a very wild career pivot from the finance world to the marketing agency world, and have loved it ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Going from finance to Google.
Yeah, you just change what you add up. That's all.
Yes, awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here. We're so super excited for your tips and tricks and your pointers. For those who just joined, please put your name and where you're from in the chat, as well as any questions that you might have. We are going to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. So please add those into the chat and we will definitely get to them. All right, Sam, take it away.
Let's do this. All right, so we've got a bunch of slides. You will obviously get all of them after this. So if you can't read all the text, that's literally on purpose so that as you share it, you can just, don't have to remember what I said. You can just read the slides. But anyway, that's me. We've already talked enough about me. I don't want to talk about me anymore. So I think the best way to think about Google Ads, especially for this Q4, as we're thinking about it for all of the e-com clients that we work with, is that this is kind of a weird Q4, and it's going to be a weird BFCM. So we're in a post-pandemic phase, obviously. Inflation is still high, and it's persistently high in some verticals. Recessions haven't kicked in yet, but there's slowing growth and job cuts, etc. And the regulatory environment is just getting to the point where it's problematic. So we have things like consent mode that are now popping up, which can limit efficacy. So we're in this really weird place, and for a lot of our brands, Q4 is make or break. This is a chart from Veros, and it's all 7-figure Shopify stores. And what it shows is year-over-year absolute growth. The big thing for me about this chart is that roughly 80% of Shopify stores are either down or up less than $100,000 this year of 7-figure stores. That's insane. It's been tough sledding for e-com. And a lot of brands that I know are really hoping for a huge Q4 in order to get them into a great place going into 2025. Obviously, the headwinds that we are going to be overcoming here are a little rough. These are my bleak slides. It's not that bad, but total debt balance is up. Consumers are living on credit, and no one saves any money. but we don't have hope. But we do have hope, right? All hope is not lost. And I think for Google Ads specifically, it comes down to really 4 things. And if you can do these 4 things for Q4, you will be successful, because 90% of other advertisers on Google Ads do not do them. So I break this down into remarkable foundation, brilliant at the basics, human creativity, and zigging when others zag. So don't follow the herd. And I've included a prep list. And this is my prepper joke just because I think it's funny, but other people might not. So here's what I think you really need to do. Number 1 is GA4, which I think the second you say the words GA4 and a marketer in the same room, people are not happy. GA4 does not spark joy in anybody's life, but it can be a very powerful asset for your Google Ads campaign due to the integrations between GA4 and Google Ads. Number 2 is building out your audiences. Number 3 is your creative and your calendar. If you can create some moments in there that you can use to supercharge Google Ads that you can combine. Number 4 is your feed. And then number 5 is your data exports. So let's go through those. I am in the minority. I think GA4 is misunderstood, but incredibly powerful if you use it, especially for e-commerce sellers, because very specifically of their predictive audiences. Yes, data-driven attribution is nice. It is good. It hopefully disabuses some of us of the notion that like one channel did anything on its own. But for me, the most powerful thing is the predictive audiences, because those audiences can be passed into Google Ads, but just via the connectivity between GA4 and Google Ads. If you can do that, it's amazing. The cohort-based reports are also great, especially if you had GA4 set up last BFCM, because what you can actually do is see, okay, how did my buyers from BFCM last year perform over time? And in most cases, what we see is that BFCM buyers tend to be different. They tend to repeat purchase at a lower rate, and they tend to be a little discount happy. So we can take all of that data and use it to adjust how we're bidding this BFCM on customers. And to me, that's really powerful because it allows us to make sure that as we acquire customers through Google Ads, we're doing so at a cost that produces positive contribution margin. Okay. And then you can also just create lists, and I love my lists. So historical buyers, please make that list. Please make a list of VIP customers. They're great for lookalikes in demand gen campaigns in Google Ads, but they're also just great to have. Any of your lurkers, website remarketing, minus customers, BFCM Q4 is the time when you can convert lurkers at unimaginably high rates if you can target them. Most brands just don't break them out, so they have no way to target them. But Google Analytics 4 is your best way to do this. Build the segment in Google Analytics 4, pass it into Google Ads, add it to your campaign in Google Ads as an audience. Easy, easy wins. And then the fun thing, optimize your product feed. No e-commerce brand likes to do this. This makes us all sad inside, but the reality is about 90% of the product feeds I review are missing multiple attributes. This is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. In advance of Q4, just go through your product feed. Make sure you've actually completed it. Get great imagery in your product feed. If your apparel, have flat lay, have ghost mannequins, right? Candidly, this is not a pitch or anything, but we use Suna because their product photography is good. We recommend it to our clients, and it's the easiest way in the world to actually get good imagery. But you just make sure you have good imagery, please. Use your custom label fields, and then optimize your titles. So here's like our product title optimization framework. Most of the time you see we lead with brand, but especially for seasonal, especially if you're doing if you're a gifty product, like, great holiday gifts for men, right? Lead with the seasonality if it's a seasonal product. There's so much to be gained in Google Ads because so much of what you do relies on your feed that if you just take the time to improve your feed, you will see amazing results on Google. Okay, don't forget to keyword cast, obviously. And please don't wait for September to call somebody to ask about your feed. Like, I realize it's August 14th, but please don't wait till September. It's like the least favorite thing in the world to get a call from somebody like, our product feed's broken and we need to go live with BFCM ads in a month, help. Okay, so let's talk structure. My overarching rule, and this is wildly unpopular among most media buyers, but it comes from scars in finance, is it's better to not spend than it is to spend poorly. So everything that I advocate for on a Google Ads standpoint is geared toward following this rule. I don't want to acquire a customer at a price point that makes it near impossible for me to be profitable on that customer. Because all I've done is dig myself a hole that I now have to dig myself out of later. And it gets brands into a death spiral where you're constantly paying more to acquire customers who give you less. That's how you lose. So what I want to share, and so much of the structure that I advocate for, is designed to avoid this problem because it is so pervasive. I probably audit a dozen to 20 Google Ads accounts for e-commerce per year, and I would say 60 to 70% are not following this rule, and they are in financial trouble because of it. The second rule is one campaign type does not an account make. So many brands just rely on a single thing: branded search, shopping, PMAX, acquisition channels. So none of them are complete. For Google Ads specifically, and we'll go into the details of how do you make this work, this is how big picture I think about Google Ads accounts. Number one, at the very top, is the bane of every marketer's existence, the thing that we all get our pitchforks out for Google, which is branded search. 10% of your spend should probably be on branded search. It is insurance. It is not acquisition. That's it. It is an insurance cost. If you are doing advertising on Meta, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere else, you are probably driving branded search volume. Do not let your competitors take it, because that just means you're lighting money on fire over there. It's insurance. It is not acquisition. 2 and 3 are your standard shopping, and then your non-brand PMAX, which has replaced smart shopping. Cumulatively, these should be 40 to 60% of your spend for an e-commerce brand. This is where this is the meat and potatoes. This is the core of your Google engine. Getting these two to work. And for me, I usually like to put standard shopping for your core offerings, your big sellers, your top product, your top SKUs. PMAX for those other SKUs that I'm not quite sure how to sell. Then you have your non-branded search. This really does fluctuate for me, but I look at it like your non-branded search. If you are a content-rich brand, non-branded search can be a fantastic acquisition channel if you know to target pain points, problems, etc. It just works. You know, if somebody's looking for what's the best gift for my teenage son and you have something like that, amazing. And you have good content on that, you will crush. If you don't have content to support the search, just don't do it. And then 5 is what I call the discovery engines. This is demand gen and YouTube. I'm a huge believer in demand gen. I love demand gen. I think it's amazing. I also love YouTube. I think it's the most undervalued impression on the web. And I have enough data that I can actually prove that. If you have success on TikTok, if you have success on Meta, YouTube can work for you. It will take a little bit of time, but YouTube is a fantastic platform, and it's all accessible through Google Ads. Okay, so big picture, that's how I think about breaking down where the money goes in the account. Then how do you actually build it out? What do you have to do to be successful at implementing that structure across your account? First thing is first, Google's goals are not your goals. This is the thing I tell every single person who's like, Google wants to help me. No, they don't. Google wants to make money. You want to make money. If those paths happen to cross, amazing. If not, Google will take your money. Platforms take your money. Customers make you money. Never forget it. If Google reps call you and say something, don't listen. If there's an auto apply suggestion, it's probably not in your best interest. It is okay to be skeptical, because a platform's job is to make money for the platform, not for you. Number 2, exclusions are more important than inclusions. it is harder than ever to target on Google. So what you exclude is actually more powerful. 3 is data is essential. And 4 is we really want to think about maximum sustainable, not minimum viable. A lot of old school PPC people are still talking about, micro targeting, this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't work. It's expensive. It's time consuming. You have to think bigger because we do have automation throughout the entire Google Ads interface. And unfortunately, that is the world we live in. So you evolve or you die. And the single biggest thing here is that data is your optimization layer. For e-commerce brands, very specifically, the first 2 here are mission critical. 1 is enhanced conversions. This is a process whereby additional data on a conversion is passed directly to Google. This can be set up for any Google Ads account. It is actually quite simple to do. It can be done through the Google Tag, through Google Tag Manager, through the Google Ads API. Every brand that is advertising on Google should have enhanced conversions set up. The second is offline conversions. For offline conversions, this is a situation where the data from your CRM, your Shopify store, your WooCommerce store, etc., is passed back to Google to say, hey, this customer did X, Y, or Z. This customer made a return. This customer purchased again. This customer went from a one-time purchase to a subscription. Offline conversions are incredibly powerful because number 1, they skirt around some of your standard privacy measures because this is Google Ads and your CRM connected directly together. So a web cookie blocker or a pop-up blocker or a privacy tracker doesn't matter, right? It skirts all of that in a privacy compliant way. I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, but it does work. And then the third is smart business data. The more data you can pass about your products and your business, the better you can be. Honestly, the same thing that works for B2C here works for B2B, right? You can use enhanced conversions for B2B and it works great. You should use offline conversions for B2B because this is how you pass qualified lead data back to Google to tell Google, these are the people who actually were qualified, actually signed up for a demo, actually converted, just like it's how e-com tells people this is who actually bought, this is who actually purchased again, or this is who we thought was going to be a great customer, but they returned everything. So don't find more people like this. I don't like them. Right? We use all of this data, your enhanced conversion data, your offline conversion data, your business data to focus Google's engine on what matters to you, because this is the lever that we pull for optimization. And that is what allows us to get to this area. This is what I think every business should be obsessed about, is how much money you're making. Like at the end of the day, I don't care about your CPC. I don't care about your click-through rate. I don't care about your ROAS. I just don't care. I care about how much money we're making. I care about how efficiently we're making that money. And I care about how efficient our overall marketing mix is, because that's really what's going to drive success. And if you need proof, this is my fun ROAS vanity chart. 3 clients, all with $100 CAC. I'm sorry, $100 in revenue, all with the $10 CAC, all with the 10 ROAS. One of them lost money on the sale, one of them made some money, and one of them made a lot of money. ROAS is just vanity. You give anybody enough money and the right set of products, and they can make a big ROAS number. That doesn't mean they're actually making money. So people are like, my ROAS dude or my ROAS bro, just run away. Make your life a little better. Because ROAS obsession makes you do dumb things. This is a SKU count based on the y-axis is the SKU count. The bottom axis is the target ROAS. What you can see is for this account, the actual ROAS was 10, but where we made all of our money, you can see here, we're dramatically underspending on everything to the left here, because these products have so much margin that we can actually sell them at a ROAS of a 3 or a 4 or a 5 and make so much money. But we don't, because there was an obsession about we need a 10 ROAS. Why? at the end of the day, ROAS is just vanity, right? What matters is contribution margin. If you have a product with a huge contribution margin, you can sell it for less. You can spend more, right? And you can still be profitable. Whereas if you have a product with really small contribution margins, actually you need to have a much higher ROAS. But this particular client didn't see that and they got sad. So the next piece of this, and I'm going to go quickly, is people don't buy stuff based on how much money you make, right? So when we think about structure, we layer the audience and the business insights on top of that foundation to give you what looks like this. So our best-selling products that our audience loves, that have the highest contribution margin, that we are making the most money on, that's what we prioritize. That's what gets the highest target CPA or the lowest target ROAS, because that is what will drive money for us. And then as you go from the upper left of this matrix to the bottom right, you can see there are some things like things that we don't make a lot of money on, that we don't sell a lot of, we're just not even gonna bother advertising. And things that we make some money on that people absolutely love, we're gonna prioritize. That is how smart Google Ads accounts are being structured, because this is what gives the algorithm enough information to make smart bids on your behalf, right? Same thing works with top seller. You can do it off of price, you can do it off of collection, you can use it off of use case, like travel accessories with luggage, right? And you can do it off of buyer types, a loyal customer, a subscriber, etc. But the point is that you are thinking on one axis about how much the contribution margin is on this product. So how much margin do I have to play with? How much can I spend to acquire that customer? And on the other side, you're thinking, okay, well, who is this customer and how valuable are they to me and what are they looking for? And when you layer those two together and you create a matrix, you get a prioritization that you can then use and communicate to the platforms using what we're going to talk about next. So this works with standard search, Go Team, right? And all the while, it allows you to make structures machine learning friendly, right? Every piece of machine learning in Google operates on these 4 assumptions. So what I'm trying to do is minimize how bad they get. One is accuracy. They assume all data is accurate. Number 2, they assume that everything is continuous and there is no randomness. Number 3, they assume every sale is incremental. And number 4, they assume that every piece of data they have is the only data that's relevant. The view is complete. They're all wrong assumptions, but they're assumptions that need to be made for smart bidding to work. How we solve for this is by giving Google the data that it needs to give it as complete a view as possible, by passing along things like customer lists to prioritize incrementality. One of the easiest things you can do here, especially on the customer list front, is focus on new customer acquisition. That is a setting in every Google Ads campaign that is rarely turned on, but it tells Google, hey, this is my list of customers. Don't bother bidding for them. Only bid for new customers. So easiest way in the world to focus more of your effort on new customer acquisition is just to turn that setting on. It's in every campaign under settings. It says customer acquisition. You can do that, right? That's one way that you can help Google solve this incrementality issue. And then granularity and machine-friendly scale. So this is a visualization from Amanda Evans. I think that her work on this has been amazing. So on the upper left, what you see is a standard Google Ads account. This is one with about 8,000 ad groups. Yeah, this was a thing, right? Everything that's red is losing money. Everything that's blue is making money. Everything that's white is breaking even. What you can see here is a lot of red. But when you consolidate those ad groups together and you say, you know what, we're going to stop thinking about single keyword ad groups. We're going to stop doing this. We're going to use a machine-friendly structure. You can consolidate to what's on the bottom right. And while there still are little blocks of red here, there's far less. Because what you're doing is consolidating learnings together. So this is what I mean by maximum sustainable, not minimum viable. Build bigger ad groups, think in bigger buckets, target based on that matrix priority versus a single keyword everything. And then we use TUCPA or target ROAS as your primary budget control lever. So this is the part where there's math. I promise that you don't actually have to know how curves work. Just trust me on this part. This is a pretty standard ads demand curve, right? Ads are cheap and efficient at the beginning. They get wildly expensive by the end, and they get less expensive, right? The higher your impression share, the more you pay. Pretty simple. And there's 2 inflection points on every curve. What we want to do is get as much of your spend at the top of this as possible. So if you actually transform this S curve into a parabolic curve, this is what you get. If you don't believe me, ask anybody who does linear algebra. They'll tell you it's probably the same thing. What you want to do here is just focus on your inflection points and spend in the middle. So this is how we set these. If you're in Google Ads, there's a budget simulator, and you can do this for target CPA or target ROAS. All you need now is a spreadsheet. Take the numbers out of here, plot them into your spreadsheet, and what you can see is as you increase that target CPA here, what is your cost per conversion total, and what is your incremental cost per conversion? In this particular case, you can see that as I spend more, right, as I increase that target CPA from 140 to 250 to 420 to 590, the cost per conversion for those incremental conversions gets wildly expensive, even though the total blended cost per conversion doesn't move that drastically. This is what allows us to bid smarter because we have this data. Right? It's all in Google Ads. You can literally get it just by clicking on that budget simulator, and it will help you unlock tons of growth because you'll be able to see exactly how much incremental cost per conversion you're paying and make a decision on if it's worth it to you. Right? And ultimately, all this does is handle your expected value. So your target CPA or your target ROAS and your budget is just part of your bid. Your expected click-through rate and your expected CVR, we're going to talk about next. But if you can get this piece right, then the rest of this becomes easier. So how do we actually prioritize? If you have a low CPA or a high ROAS, this is the lowest priority. So if you have an ad group that you don't really want to sell, or you only want to sell if you're going to make a ton of money, give it a low CPA or a high ROAS. Right in the middle, medium priority, things with mid, maybe a seasonal, maybe a decent seller, maybe an exploratory product. But then for your best sellers, your top sellers, your cash cows, high CPA or a low ROAS target. This puts them in the highest priority, gives them the highest bid, and allows them to actually scale. Another fun pro tip you can do here, if you go to portfolio strategies inside the shared library, you can create a portfolio bid strategy. And if you click on the little expand button, you will see this little thing here where it says minimum and maximum bids. This allows you to actually set a maximum CPC limit so that Google doesn't have blow up CPCs that tank your whole account performance. It is free insurance. You should probably take it. And usually what we do is we set with that at the upper bound of our target CPA, the upper bound of our conversion rate, and we get a maximum bid. So if, using very quick math, the highest conversion rate we can realistically, sustainably project is 10%, and the target CPA is $100, then the max bid limit's 1,000. It's 1,000 divided by 0.1 equals, 100 divided by 0.1 equals 1,000. Okay, targeting. Your Google Ads still runs on keywords, but more on audiences. That's why at the very beginning I say set up your audiences, because the more you can pipe those in, the better data you're going to have across PMAX and all of your search and shopping, right? Err broad on keywords because people type weird stuff into Google. Like Google is everyone's favorite therapist. You will tell Google things that you would not tell your therapist, right? So sometimes you see weird search terms, but the weird search terms are made by people who are great. They are just confused, and we are here to help, right? And then number 2 is your creative assets. Search copy, any visuals, videos, etc. And then the third is the landing page, right? I think landing pages are the single biggest opportunity for most e-com brands because most of their landing pages are product pages, and those are bad, right? I'm 100% a proponent of doing more landing page testing because I have seen landing pages dramatically accelerate the performance of paid search campaigns in ways that a structure alone cannot do. So we just sum all this up. We segment when things are only necessary, so we don't hyper segment anything. We use passive and active targeting. So passive targeting is audiences, active targeting is keywords, right? We think of guardrails. We don't try to micro target. Don't try to tell a machine. Don't try to tell a Roomba how to clean your house. Just make sure it doesn't run over the dog you do. And we solve for the right thing, right? We pass back more data so that we're actually getting data on purchases and on lifetime value and on returns and on incremental purchases so that we can make better decisions on customers. Okay, I'm gonna skip over match types because I'm almost running out of time here. And go into creativity. So structure is one part of this equation, right? And most people do obsess about it, but the best structure in the world does not mean a thing if no one clicks on your ads or no one buys your stuff, right? So think about how to make things stand out on the SERP. My favorite example is always mattresses because no one in the mattress world has any creativity. And you can see this right here. I just searched for best mattresses for side sleepers, and oh my God, guess what? They have the top picks, and they have the top picks, and they're rated #1, and they're rated #1. And oh, side sleepers, are you a side sleeper? Do you want a mattress for side sleepers? Shop our side sleeper Labor Day offers. Get out of here. I don't know who wrote this, but they should all probably just be replaced with ChatGPT because this is terrible, right? You want copy that stands out because every one of these, they all look and sound exactly the same. No one cares. So lead with your value propositions, right? Lead with the benefits, not your features. No one cares that you can store 1,000 gigabytes in a pencil, right? They care that this is the only pencil you'll ever need to carry, whatever the answer is. Benefits to the consumer. How does this make their life better? Great. Make that 30 characters and put it in top of your ad. That's what sells. Add incremental info, right? Don't repeat the same things. Machines will always play their favorites. So don't add incremental info. Don't just repeat the same thing. Add incremental info. Make things better. Ad customizers. I've buried the lead here, but for e-commerce stores, ad customizers are the most underutilized tactic in the world. If you want your ads to perform better, Q4, Q1, any quarter, use customizers and experiment, right? Use variants. I 100% believe that the value of great creative, the value of thinking about your imagery, about your product, about how you position it to the market, if you can do this, you can sell so much because so many people are boring. Okay, that's it. If you want to get in touch, here's how. And now we can do Q&A. Oh, I also read a newsletter. If you want to sign up, you can. Sorry, that was like 73 slides in like 30 minutes. And that was really
No, Sam, thank you so much. You just went through so much great information. I know there was a ton there, so really appreciate it. Yeah, I would love to get into a bit of a Q&A here. The first question that came in, which actually is a question that I had as well, is really, what is the first action someone should take when they're getting started with Google Ads?
So I think the first action you should always take is, I guess there's 3. Let me rephrase this. So if you're an e-com brand, right, you want to do Google Ads. The first is you need to get your product feed in order. And I think for a lot of meta advertisers, you probably have some bit of a product feed, but it may not be as built out as what you would need for Google. So getting that in order, very good. Number two is, I think doing a little bit of keyword research is often very helpful to understand what you're actually going after with Google, right? With Meta, it is very much a lot of meta advertising does tend to focus on bigger groups of people with shared interests. It is, candidly for us, interest stacks are working wonderfully right now. Lookalikes are working wonderfully. But in many ways, as the advertiser, your creative is doing the targeting on Meta. Well, on Google, that's not the case, right? You don't have that luxury. So you should be thinking, okay, what are my buyers likely to be searching for? Like, why would somebody want to see this? And understand what they're going to be seeing on those search pages. Like, do some actual searches and figure out, okay, I think this is an area where I can win. Or, maybe you are, okay, plus size active. Great. I mean, your target may be as simple as, I want to search plus size activewear. Great. Who's competing here? What am I going to need to win? And understand what you're getting yourself into. And then the third piece is, I would 100% start with either a standard shopping campaign or a performance max campaign, depending on your budget. If it is a smaller brand with a smaller budget, I would use performance max and I would give it a product feed only, so that it's basically a smart shopping campaign. That will give you some data on your product performance in Google search. It will allow you to get started without, I think, the higher costs that typically come with shopping. And then as you see that perform, the next step is, okay, I now know what products actually work on Google. I have some good ideas about search themes via my Performance Max reporting. I have some good ideas about audiences. Now I'm going to go create a standard shopping campaign. I'm going to use that. So I would start with the more automated campaign and just let Google help you sort of figure out where the right places are to push more money versus not.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Specifically for holiday, right? Like, let's talk about Cyber Monday and Black Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
How soon should folks be planning their ads?
Like now? So it depends. But my general rule is, I want to start thinking about, for a lot of our clients, there are Q4 meetings that are happening in July. That's where we start to plan out, what does our offer strategy look like? What does our rollout strategy look like? What are the moments that we are going to have around Black Friday? So for us, I think we have some clients where we'll do some marketing exclusively to our current customer list and say things like, hey, this is like our BFCM preview sale. Like, you get first access, but you have to be a customer. And that's a moment in the end of October. And what we're trying to do is basically take those customers off the table for our competition. Like, you get our best deal early so that we can do that, right? For others, we might have a series of product drops that happen in the fall that lead into that. So we want to know what those moments are, so that you can start to plan out, okay, what is my Google ad strategy around this? If we're doing a huge push on Meta, well, that's great to know. I want to make sure that I have budget on the branded side there to capture that demand. So for me, I think you should start planning now. Have a good idea of like, okay, this is what I think I want to do around Q4. This is what I want to, this is how I think I want to execute this. And from a Google Ads standpoint, then you can support what you're doing on other channels. But I feel like the campaigns that are most successful are the ones where everyone's on the same page. We're able to build out campaigns and customizers and countdowns in September and October, so that come November, you are not running around and frantically trying to get sales.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely, you should be planning now and strategizing now. What about the messaging? Should you be switching up your messaging with the holiday in mind?
It depends. My general philosophy is that your branded message and your value propositions, your benefits to your audience, probably don't change. But where our messaging does often change are things like how we position the product. Like, is it a gift? Because if that's a gift, well, we're getting into gift giving season. We should have messaging that's like, this is a great gift for dads, or dad's number one gift, or mom's number one gift, or what have you, right? That's a message we might not run all year round because it's not always being, it's not a gifting holiday.
Yep.
Countdowns are another one where, especially around BFCM, we will run countdown ad customizers all the time because that creates that sense of urgency and helps you, I think, capture people that otherwise might not come in. So that's something like sale ends in 13 hours, right? That's a really easy one.
Okay, great.
And obviously put your sale front and center. Like there are promotion extensions, please use those. But other than that, I mean, I think if your product is great and you have benefits, then and you've done your ICP research and you understand that, then don't make everything about the sale, right? You have to balance the sale, the BFCM, the urgency against the value that you are giving to those customers for that money. And I feel like a lot of brands lose sight of that balance.
That's really good advice. All right, so Sammy from Minneapolis has asked, she has had some success with Meta ads. So how can she leverage that success into Google ads?
So a couple things. Number one, I would say is if you are having success with your dynamic product ads in Meta, then standard shopping in Google Ads is probably going to be likewise a potentially really successful tactic for you. Very similar type of ad format. Obviously, hold on, let me just scroll up and see. This is plus size activewear designer brands. Great. Like that feels like first step shopping ads. I think that's an easy transition you can make. The second is probably if you are a content-rich brand, like if you have information on sizing, on what makes good activewear, on why it's different, on different design styles, on any of those factors, non-branded search could be great because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are asking questions about what kind of activewear to buy. They're looking for help making those purchases. That seems like a great point. And then the third one is I think, especially activewear brands, they can do incredibly well around BFCM, but they can also do incredibly well in what we call Q5. So that week, 10 days after, right around the shipping cutoff for Christmas through the end of the year, when people actually have money that they got for Christmas and they're looking to buy for themselves. Oftentimes this is when all of our fitness clients start to really do well because everyone realized they just spent the last 6 weeks gorging themselves on turkey and whatever other things you eat. And now they're like, well, I got to get in shape. So if you're selling activewear, I think Google Ads could really strategically be a value for you there to capture people, not just for the holiday, but also as they're coming off that holiday and thinking to myself, like, well, what I do every holiday where it's like I ate for 6 weeks and I'm like, okay, I got to get like back into shape. Like I've got time to go back to the gym now.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. Okay, another question we had, and I know you talked about this, right? Like how important a really great landing page is and the success you're seeing with landing pages. Can you give us some tips and tricks for really what makes a great landing page?
Sure. So I think a couple things. Number one, I tend to be averse to using a lot of like product display pages. I think e-commerce brands tend to resort to, we're just going to send people directly to the PDP. But PDPs are optimized for people who have already learned about your product through your homepage or a category page or a collection page. Now they're coming here to buy. Your paid traffic is actually coming in and they're kind of cold in the sense like they maybe have seen something in your ad, but right? I tend to really like pages that, I guess I like a few different styles of pages. Number one is like the faux homepage lander, where it's actually like it makes the product the hero. Hexclad does a brilliant job of creating these. If you look at Hexclad's paid media, I have no affiliation. I own some of their products, but I think they do a really, really marvelous job of helping educate people on the full benefits of the product and telling the story of that product in a landing page format. The second that I really like, and I've seen a ton of success with on Google specifically, are listicles. So if you've got, Athletic Greens does these very, very well. 6 reasons why Athletic Greens is right for this user type. I think a lot of skincare brands also do these, and they work quite well, just because it allows you to tell more of that story and sell your product. But if you boil all those elements down, I think it comes down to a few things. Number one is they actually help tell the story of your product. They help convert users who may know something. And generally speaking, my assumption is always the user only knows half of what was in the ad when they come to my site. I assume they've looked at the ad and they've retained less than 50%. So if that user can come to this page and understand the story of who we are, why we're doing this, what makes us better, and why they should get out their credit card right now and buy this, that's a good landing page. But most landing pages are just like, hey, this is a product display page and it comes in these 4 sizes. I'm like, great, I don't understand what this is or why it's good for me. I don't remember what I clicked on Facebook. Like, I don't know. I was just doom scrolling and this looked cool. Like, nah. Same thing happens on Google, right? Like,
Yep.
So I feel like you have to think about your user and be like, hey, does this page actually help you buy something? And I mean, my test is always, I've got a great partner. She's wonderful, but I'll often like just pull up one of our landing pages and throw the phone at her when she's like sitting in bed before we go to sleep. And I'm like, would you buy this right now? And she usually looks at me like a crazy person. And half the time she's like, no, I don't even know what it does. Like, why is this good for me? I'm like, oh, okay. My landing page is missing a lot of information now. Right? But if you have a person like that, you can just throw a landing page out on a mobile phone and be like, would you buy this? And they're like, no, I don't even know what it is. Okay. That tells you your landing page is probably missing some really important information that could help you convert more.
Wow, I love that question, right? Do you know what this brand is? Do you know what this product is? That's a really great question we should be asking for every single landing page that we're creating.
It makes all the difference. I think it's just the little things.
I love that. That's a great tip. Another thing you mentioned, so you said that YouTube is an underrated tool.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk more about that? How should we be using YouTube?
So I think YouTube, let me back up. YouTube is roughly 1/3 the cost of Meta on a CPM basis globally.
Wow. And
in the US, it's actually closer to 30%. So, okay, that's good. Number 2, YouTube, well, specifically YouTube TV, has the exclusive rights to NFL Sunday Ticket. And in America, we like football. So especially if your audience is like football people, that's a huge audience that's coming onto that platform. And Google has done a terrible job of monetizing it. So for me, I think just from an economic standpoint, the audience is there. And YouTube is kind of like Martha Stewart before she got arrested, right? And Snoop Dogg now. No one hates them. Like everybody likes YouTube. My grandmother uses YouTube. My 13-year-old niece uses YouTube. Everybody likes it. No one has like opinions. So for me, this is like perfect because it's like any customer can use YouTube. So to me, that's amazing in that it's universally kind of loved. The second piece is how do you use it and how do you make it work? So YouTube has a bunch of very cool targeting mechanisms. They have the ability to target specific videos. So if you find videos that your competitors have pushed or that review magazines have pushed, you can target ads to run in front of those videos, right? That's those things that we all can't wait to press skip on, right? But that's YouTube. And to me, that's amazing. The second piece is I usually like to use YouTube as a complement to what I'm doing on search. Because what we're seeing is the volume of searches on YouTube are increasing. People are increasingly turning to YouTube for educational reasons. They're turning for research. Marquise Brownlee has built a fantastic brand just around reviewing stuff on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, that tells me that a lot of people are going to YouTube for information. So if I have content about my product that's longer than 30 seconds, right? I've got a client right now that runs 8-minute advertisements about workbenches on YouTube. 30% of the people who are served these with a skippable banner will watch up to 7 minutes of a guy talking about how a workbench is good for you. Like, you can't buy that kind of. Do they convert off of YouTube all the time? No, but when our YouTube spend goes up and our YouTube watch time goes up, we can positively correlate it to performance of our shopping campaigns, our branded campaigns, and our non-branded search campaigns. People go on, they watch this video, they get a ton of information, and then they convert. And we target those again to people who are in market for things like workbenches, tool sheds, tool storage, etc., whether it's competitors or reviews. So we use it as like this in much the same way I think that you probably would use Meta, in that you are just, hey, if you're interested in this, this could be a really interesting thing. Here's some information about it. We're not selling you hard. We're not saying buy now. It's literally just a way to get in front of our audience at a fraction of the cost of Meta. Who's making his creative? A dude in his shop with a cell phone? It's the most authentic thing in the world.
And that's something I think we forget about with YouTube, right? Is YouTube is still, I say still, right, a place for entertainment and creativity, right? I feel like it hasn't been sort of, ruined yet by
the marketers haven't ruined it yet.
Yeah. I know we're a big fan of YouTube TV at our house. I know once we switched, I was like, wow, like this is amazing. I feel like everybody should know about this. So definitely, I love that advice. Okay, I have one last question for you, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
What is the number one mistake that you see folks making with their Google ads?
So I think the single biggest one is not thinking about how their Google ads should be connected to their business, right? At the end of the day, Google and Meta and everybody else just serve a purpose, and that purpose is to make you money. And I think a lot of people are so obsessed about ROAS and about all this stuff they see from like Google ad bros that they lose sight of the fact that Google ads needs to serve your business. Your business doesn't need to serve Google ads, right? And for me, that starts with, okay, what can we actually afford to pay for this, to sell this product? What is our margin on this product? And making sure that you're bidding smart. We've looked at a lot of our client data, and of all the customers that many of our clients acquire through paid media before they worked with me or them or us, about 30% of those customers are never profitable. They never make their money back. And I'm like, why are you doing this? This is why we set up things like value rules, and why we use max CPC limits, and why we use target CPA and target ROAS, is to control that. Because if you can just cut out the 30% of losses, and yes, that means you're going to spend less on Google ads. It means that your top line might go down, but your bottom line goes up a ton because you're not adding in negative numbers. And I think the biggest mistake I see people making is they're just dumping more and more money into Google ads without ever thinking, like, is this actually growing my business? Is this actually producing customers at a rate that's acceptable to me? Is the next dollar I give to Google giving me back enough dollars to justify it? And I just don't think many e-com stores have ever really had that conversation with themselves or with their agency partners or with whoever's running their stuff, and thought to themselves, like, okay, is this actually worth it? And again, I do Google ads all day. Like, I love it, but I'll be the first one to tell you, I think too many brands spend too much money on it because they've never done the math. And
yeah. I know something that you said that I thought was really important is all I care about is money, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And you care about these brands making a profit from these ads, right? And if they're not,
100%.
then what are you doing?
Correct. Right, exactly. And I think it's gotten to a point where there are so many brands that I see that are in that 7 to 8 figure space. And like you said, they're spending more and more, they're spending more than ever. And their owners or their teams are coming back and they're saying, we're not getting it. And I'm like, okay, but you've never actually put in the data to get the output, and no one's ever had this conversation. And I think we need to have this conversation that, I would rather, I've had some that we've literally cut their spend in half, but they've only lost about 10 to 12% on their contribution margin. So costs went down 50%, but the actual amount they were making before ads came off only went down 10%. I'm like, okay, so this half of your advertising that we just eliminated, that all drops to the bottom line. And, if you were making, X, if you were making $1 million before, well, now you're making $1 million plus the 500,000 we just cut out of your ad budget. Congratulations. Like, you've made a lot more money and you're spending less on Google ads and you're less reliant on them. Like, that's good. I think it's healthy.
I think sometimes there's this misconception that the more you spend with Google ads, the more you'll make.
Yeah. But I think the flaw in that logic is candidly, that every click is more expensive than the last, all things being equal. Right? That's how digital platforms are designed. They're designed so that the little guy can compete with a small budget. But the downside of that is when the little guy gets big, the economies of scale don't work the same way as they did with legacy media.
Yep.
So there's a point where it doesn't make sense to spend, or where, I've told people like, hey, as much as I would love for you to spend, like to go from spending 50,000 to 100,000, I truly believe that you would get a better return on that next $50,000 putting it here, here, or here. Like, go do that instead. And once you've done that and you've actually created sufficient demand and you've built awareness in the marketplace and you're at a position where, I think we can do more on Google, then great. Like, I would love to help you with that. But for right now, like you said, at the end of the day, you're in business to make a profit. And I think the big mistake we can make is always making that assumption that if I spend more, I'll get more. And it's just not true.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much for all of this really great information, all of these tips, all of these tricks, all of this really fantastic data. Really appreciate your time. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to be hosting these holiday webinars every Wednesday from now until early October. Thank you so much for joining. Sam, thank you so much for your time. We are going to be posting this entire video on our suna.co/webinars landing page. So if you weren't able to check out the whole thing or you want to revisit it again for some great sound bites, check it out there. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.